everyone, I'm Sarah Ramsden.
And I'm Summer Inanen, and we are nutritionists answering your health questions. But today we are going to film a special episode to really kind of share our personal stories. Well, Sarah's personal story in this one. So, because it's really fascinating when you kind of get to know where we came from. We're so fascinating. No, really, Sarah's story is like really profound. So, we wanted to do a little bit of an interview just so that you guys can get to know us and what we specialize in and why we kind of specialize in what we specialize in.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we do this at the beginning of our seminars, perhaps not in as much depth as we will today, but whenever someone hears my story, like the whole room goes,
It's true.
And it's just kind of strange for me because it's just, like I grew up here, I moved there, blah, blah, blah. It's like, very normal to me.
Yeah.
But it's not.
So I guess we'll start.
The rest of you.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start out by asking, okay, so what led you down this path? Like, what kind of brought you into
you have an itchy nose,
eating this way? That's okay. That's okay.
Well, I was seemingly healthy, fit. I was running half marathons, getting really good times at altitude. And this was probably in 2008, and and I moved to Toronto, having just gotten married and, big things, got a promotion, everything was like amazing. And then when I was, as a runner, I started noticing, and those of you who are runners will know, that when your gait goes off, like you really notice it. Like it was very subtle, and I couldn't feel my left hand. Like I could use it, but I couldn't, if I was to touch you, like I couldn't feel what the fabric of your top felt like, or I couldn't flip a light switch because I couldn't feel it if I wasn't looking at it, when you go into a dark room, say, trying to feel. And so I went to the doctor, and they sent me off for all these tests, and it came back saying that I had a brain tumor. And when they were telling me, it started off, you have a lesion on your brain, and to me a lesion is like a boil or something on your skin, and I was like, okay. And then by the end of the conversation, it was a tumor.
It's crazy. And that's where people go,
and it was a meningioma, and they didn't know why people get them. So I don't pretend to know why, but it's definitely inflammatory stuff going on there. But every single doctor I saw, including the neurosurgeon, was like, it doesn't make sense, your symptoms don't align with where the tumor was, which was basically like right the kind of the third eye, like right on top of my olfactory nerves.
It's crazy.
And so I went for an MRI. I had to go to the States to get one before my surgery was booked. And turned out I had multiple sclerosis as well. And I'm like, what are the odds? Like some serious inflammation going in my body for whatever reason.
So how far apart did you find that out? That you had
it was in the same week.
MS? Yeah.
In the same week.
Nuts.
Yeah. So 6 weeks later, I was in hospital having a craniotomy, which is basically when they saw into your skull and they remove it, and they just go in and they remove the tumor. And I came out with like a head full of staples like this. Whoa.
So do you still have like scars, I'm assuming?
You can't really, no, it's a little here, but you really can't see it.
Yeah.
Even my hairdresser can't see it.
Yeah.
So I came home and I had 3 months off work to recover. And in that time, I just, people email me a lot asking me about this, because I have a whole nother website that talks about my recovery and surgery and all that stuff. People ask me all the time, I really want to get back to work as soon as possible. And it's like, take that 3 months off and enjoy it. And just chill out and figure out what you like doing with your life again, and hobbies. And I was sewing, and I was going out with the dog for 3 hours, putting on a toque, it was minus 20 degrees C, put on a toque, take the dog out, no one knows any different.
That's so good that you need to do that though, because so many people would want to kind of push through it, but your body has to recover.
It has to. I would sleep from 8 in the evening right through to maybe 10 in the morning, and I'd take a maybe 3-hour nap in the afternoon. This was the first few weeks, and then slowly it decreased. But the more social exposure I got, so let's say I went to a mall, and I was there, I could only really handle 5-10 minutes in a mall or in the farmer's market, and I swear the world was spinning around me. It was just too much input. Mm-hmm. And then I'll go home and sleep 3-4 hours, it was just too much. So that's why it takes so long to recover, because it has this effect on, you know, how your brain processes things. It can't filter things out anymore.
Yeah.
So went through all that, recovered from that. That really took a year to get back to work, back into exercise and back into a normal routine. And then I started dealing with the MS because there's only so much so many things you can deal with at one time.
Yeah.
And that's when I started seeing a personal trainer, because I figured what goes in to an MS attack is what comes out. So you have to, my approach was I want to be as strong as possible, like physically, because if I lose the ability to use my hand and my leg, I'm going to have muscle wastage and all sorts. So I decided I'm going to be as strong as possible. And that's what I did. And then I discovered paleo, and I lost weight that I'd put on from the medications I was on, a lot of anti-inflammatories and anti-seizure medication and stuff like that just makes you puff up.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost a lot of weight, and then I discovered the autoimmune protocol, which I did for a while, but I found it really didn't make much of a difference for me. So today I stay away from nightshades just out of habit, and I don't eat a lot of nuts and seeds, because when I grew up that was just something we did at Christmas, like when I grew up in England. So I very rarely eat nuts and seeds, so it's just the way I am. And so I don't really have issues with that. I can have dairy every now and again, but I'm just always very, very aware of the inflammatory nature of some of those foods for me.
So how did you know that it was helping with the diet change helped with your MS?
Well, in my scans, in my MRIs, all those white spots, they call them lesions, have all gone down.
Okay.
And I have, ever since that first attack, which was where my symptoms came from, that led me to go to the doctor. It wasn't the tumor at all, it was the MS. They have never come back, right? So, you can attribute that to the disease course, and that maybe it wouldn't have come back either way. But I've done a lot of work on digestion and what I'm eating, and just lightening the load of my body and reducing inflammation. Mm-hmm. And that's not just food. Like, one of the biggest things I had to do was completely change my life. Like, I ended up quitting my whole career. I went back to school and decided to do what I really wanted to do, which is what we're doing as nutritionists now. And that's what it took. I had to leave a major relationship because it just wasn't taking me down the path that I wanted. And these are all things that are major stressors on you, and it's a big priority for me. Stress.
Yeah, and it's so good that you address that, because so many people, that's where the resistance comes, is having to make those tough decisions.
And they're massive decisions. It took me 2-3 years to make those decisions.
Yeah.
And to be really like, okay, I have to do this. And at the time, I didn't realize the importance to my health. In hindsight, if you have these massive stressors going on in your life, like a relationship that isn't quite right for you, or a job that doesn't quite fall into your values anymore, nothing else is going to work until you address those things.
Exactly.
And addressing food makes it a whole lot easier to do that other stuff.
Yeah.
To address the lifestyle stuff.
But the other stuff still exists.
Yeah.
If you don't address it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
what does your doctor say today?
Is
he like, whoa, like, this is crazy? Or?
Well, he says, how are you eating and what supplements are you taking? He's curious about that stuff, even though he can't recommend it, because that's not part of his modality, his scope, like my neurologist. But he's like, oh, what you're eating, that sounds really restrictive. And I'm like, oh my God, I eat the best food I've ever eaten in my whole life. Like, come on.
Can't argue with like short ribs and...
Right, and then I ask him,
sweet
like,
potatoes.
Hey, like, how much do you weigh? And he tells me, and I'm like, well, I can squat your body weight.
Yeah.
And then that pretty much shuts him up. Because he's like, you're, okay, well, then he concedes it. I'm the healthiest person he's seen, either inside or out of the hospital in the last year of appointments. So, what do you do?
So would you say that you are in remission, or that you just manage your symptoms with food and lifestyle?
Well, I haven't had any attacks. And so my doctor now questions whether his diagnosis was right in the first place.
Of course. Of course.
But,
can't be the
maybe
food.
it can be that I have completely changed my life. But, I don't think about it ever. Like, it's only like when people ask me, or at times like this, where I really think about it. But it's just, I'm always just aware of that inflammatory thing. Like, that's just the big thing.
So how do you how did you channel all that whole experience into what you do with your clients?
So today, honestly, I take, and people come to me because I have a no nonsense approach. I'm like, you need to do this. And people typically are not attracted to come to see me who are not ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like I think that we work very differently, and that'll come through when we talk about your past. That people don't come to me for the emotional support. But I am an emotional person.
Yeah. It's not that she's devoid of that. Like, let's get that clearer.
No, I just have this perspective. Like when you go through brain surgery, when you go through MS and all these scans all the time, it just puts things into perspective. Like you got to get up 15 minutes to make breakfast. Get up 15 minutes earlier. Suck it up. Like that's what you got to do. I don't actually say that, but you know that's the idea.
Yeah.
You have to do what you have to do. And I guess I should say, like, I'm not on any medication or anything.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Like, really is. You know?
So these days, I really take a balanced approach. I do CrossFit, which is a very intense exercise form. I started off just doing heavy lifting and powerlifting at a regular gym, and then I moved and started doing CrossFit because it's fun and I like the group aspect. But I do not get wrapped up in that I must be there 4 or 5 times a week. If I wake up in the morning and like, I'm just too tired today or I'm just not feeling it, I don't go. Like, I don't get wrapped up in it. And people kind of look at me funny when I say that because everyone's obsessed with CrossFit. And I am too. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
But
you're smart.
It's part of a bigger picture of health for me.
Yeah.
My life does not revolve around it. I do CrossFit to help encourage neuroplasticity and learn new movements, which is really important for the brain. So that's why I do it.
Yeah, no, that's good.
And I like lifting heavy weights, but that's a secondary thing. I'm not going to get hung up on, oh my God, I didn't do 3 times a week, or I didn't do 4 times a week.
Yeah, and you listen to your body, which I think is like something a lot of people don't do.
And this month I took 2 weeks off because I'm like, I'm just getting kind of run down. My adrenals are getting a bit, I can tell, like I'm not sleeping well. And so I just took 2 weeks off and I just focused on sleep and just getting stress levels under control again. Because I have my own business and stress is a factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of clients do you see?
I really like helping people not get to where I got to. Because I didn't realize I was getting there. So I'm passionate. Like I am just big on telling people how these small things that they put up with, whether it be, headaches or PMS or dry skin or always getting the cold in the office. Like these things are not the way it needs to be. And just because everyone else around you feels like taking a nap at 3 p.m. doesn't mean that's the way it should be. That's not normal. Just because it's common, not the way it should be. And so that's why people come to me. It's like they have something that a doctor cannot apply a diagnosis to. They just brush them off because they're like, yeah, I feel sleepy at 3 o'clock. And they say, well, eat something. Well, you need to address a whole host of other things, as we know. And so that's really what I deal with. Like, stop putting up with the crap and dealing with things and accepting them and just, you can get rid of it. You don't have to have PMS. You don't have to be exhausted at 3 p.m. You can get through a workout without bonking out. Like, whatever it is, it's just because everyone else experiences, it doesn't mean you have to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say?
I think you've heard enough.
It's good. It's a really good story. It's awesome.
And so there's all these people on the internet going,
yeah, exactly.
So that's really how you come back from a brain tumor and MS in the same week.
Yeah.
And sometimes you really have to not listen to other people. A lot of people discouraged me when I wanted to change my career, when I wanted to leave this big relationship that wasn't, like, I had to leave my marriage, and I didn't have support, which we'll do a video about that.
Yeah,
How to
support is
people.
key. Yeah.
But in hindsight, some of the best stuff that I did was lifestyle and managing stress. And it's not those everyday stresses like, I hate my boss. It's not living to your values. If you're not living to your values, that is a massive, massive thing. It takes time to kind of have the guts to change it, but that's one of the biggest things.
I agree.
That's
cool.
it.
Well, yeah, you should check out Sarah's website and all of her amazing stuff. at sarahramsden.com, which obviously we'll link to, or you might be on her page and seeing this there.
Yeah.
All right, if you have a question for us, send them to asksummerandsarah@gmail.com, and we will answer it in an upcoming episode. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.